Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel. Time for another video. This time we're going to be talking thrash. I've been in a really big, on a big thrash metal kick the last few weeks. I'm pretty much always listening to thrash here and there, but it's what I've been listening to almost exclusively here in the music room for, like I said, for a few weeks now. Just been in that mood, you know. But we also we recorded it a couple hours ago. I'll probably upload this tomorrow, so it would have been live last night. But on the Metal Roundtable, we did a look at obscure thrash metal bands, some of our favorite obscure thrash bands. So if you're a thrash fan and you're looking for something new to listen to, that video is a great resource. We talked about quite a lot of stuff that you don't see every day. It's not the big four. It's not a lot of them aren't bands that you hear about on the VC, or if you do, it's sporadic. So definitely, again, check that video out or that live stream out. We talked about some really killer thrash, and I'm going to show, I believe, two of the records that I showed tonight in the live stream, just because they're albums I love sharing with people, especially this first one, which is an all-time favorite of mine. This is a German supergroup for the most part. You've got the bass player from the record label. You've got a couple of members of Rage, and then the German power metal band Rage, and then also from Living Death, which is a fantastic band as well. And that's Morgoth Delta. And this is the debut from Morgoth Delta. I like their later stuff too, but this album is just one of those perfect albums where they hit all the spots. Really killer technical thrash that still keeps that kind of raw edge to it. Absolutely love this record. This is one I always recommend to people. You know, if you want to get away from the big four and the big bands, dig a little into the underground, this is a fantastic way to go. Absolutely love this one. Now, Morgoth Delta changed their sound. They started off technical thrash and kind of moved into progressive metal. And with each album, there is less thrash and more of that progressive sound, which is cool. Kind of the same route that Angel Dust went, where they started off as almost a pure thrash band and kind of went the progressive route. Same type of thing. Next up from Chicago is Quick Change. I believe this one was 88. Yeah. Circus of Death. This is one that I had never heard of. I ran across this record maybe, I don't know, 6 months ago at one of my local shops for like $15. It looked like thrash, so I bought it, and I really dig it. I kind of get why they didn't really blow up like some of the other thrash bands at this era. They're basically an Overkill. It's basically Overkill worship. The rhythm section's fantastic, really killer thrash. I really like the riffs. I really like the sound. The singer very much is going for that Overkill thing, which isn't a bad thing. You know, there's quite a few bands that do that I enjoy, and again, I really enjoyed this record. So if you run across this one, it's definitely worth picking up if it's not too expensive. Next up from the Great White North, we've got DBC, or Dead Brain Cells. I don't remember how I first got turned on to this band. It was recent though. By recent, I mean within the last 10 years or so. I've got this record. I believe I have one other album on CD and a comp of like unreleased and demos and stuff. And I like all of it, but this album's fantastic. Just really killer thrash. This is one of those bands that kind of, I feel like, floated under the radar here in the U.S. You know, the Voivods and the Sacrilege and some of the other Canadian bands did pretty well down here. I know a few people that knew of them in the time. Most of those guys were in the New York, New Jersey area, so I'm sure being so close to Canada just kind of migrated its way down. But definitely worth checking out. You see their stuff from time to time online and in stores. I ran across this one in a store. If you do, grab it. Definitely worth having. Next up, I found this first album, an original pressing, and it caused me to pull out a couple more, which is want to happen when I start listening to certain bands, and this is definitely one of them. This band is a good reason I'm trying to avoid buying reissues too, because it seems like lately every time I buy a reissue, I end up getting or running across a copy, an original pressing for a good price within a couple of months. And it drives me nuts every time I do it. And I actually did it with all three of these, not within the last, this one was the only one within the last few months, but I did it with the other two like a year ago. So it drives me nuts. MOV pressed all of these. I bought them all on a vinyl a few years ago. I bought them on vinyl. And since then, every one of those that I bought on MOV, with the exception of one, I think, I found original pressings of. But this is Join the Army, the second album from Suicidal Tendencies. Absolutely love this one. Love the artwork. This is kind of a weird one. I know a lot of people that love the first one and didn't like this one as much and then dug the ones after. I've always liked this one, though. You got that crossover sound. It's still a little bit on the punkier side, but just a fantastic album. Really glad to have an original pressing. Was this one? Yeah, and it's a promo copy as well. And then after listening to that, I had to pull out, two all-time favorites. You've, of course, got Lights, Camera, Revolution. Gave this one a couple of spins. Man, this may be the record. I mean, their debut was the album that got me into them, but this is the first one I remember buying a copy of. I had the cassette of this. Was my introduction to Robert Trujillo, who is still just one of the all-time great metal bass players. It's kind of funny, I remember prior to him joining Metallica, whenever they did a list of the top 10 greatest metal bass players of all time, he was always like number 2 or number 3. And now that he's in Metallica, people have been, oh, he's not that good. Oh, he's super overrated. I just find that funny. But Lights, Camera, Revolution, just an absolute classic. Actually, the guitar player for my band is the one that turned me on to this record. I remember now. He had a copy of this in his car, and he played it, and I think I bought it as soon as I ran across a copy in the store. And that would have been, let's see, that would have been a couple years after this came out, but still. And then, of course, I pulled out How Will We Laugh Tomorrow. Just another classic. What needs to be said? Set this one aside. Next up, Havoc, the new EP from Havoc. Finally, I bought this when it came out. I just never got around to spinning it. You got two new tracks and 2 covers. They cover Creedence Clearwater and Metallica on here. Very cool EP. Havoc, they never let me down. I saw them last year live too. They're fantastic live. Just a really killer EP. Highly recommend it. Speaking of EPs, and another band I didn't show this record, I showed the band's debut. But this is one of the most important German thrash bands that a lot of people don't know and nobody really talks about. And it's Holy Moses. It's a female-fronted band. You got a picture there, Sabina right there. They're one of the early thrash bands, period. Not in the U.S., not in Germany, period. They've been together since 81. Sabina joined the band in late 81, and her first demo with them is from 82. And from 81 to 86, they had like 7 demos. And I've heard a couple of them. But that second demo from 82 is very thrashy sounding, almost proto-black metal. Her voice back then, it's smoothed out since then. It's more straight up metal now. It was super dark and super aggressive early on. That first album that they did from 87 is fantastic. Her vocal is just it's heavy, gritty. I didn't know it was a woman. That's what her voice sounds like. But just a fantastic band. This is their final EP, I believe. No, they put out a couple things after this. 2001. This was redone by Brutal Planet in 2024. But this is the Master of Disaster EP. Definitely worth grabbing a copy of it, man. Any of their stuff, and their first few albums, you can get for under $15, and they're fantastic. Just really killer early thrash. Next up, Same type of thing. I just found a copy of this recently for really cheap. This is Handle with Care from Nuclear Assault. Fantastic album. Nobody really talks about this one. I see a lot of people show their first couple albums. I can't remember if this is the fourth. I believe it's the fourth album. But we've got Handle with Care. Just really killer, really aggressive thrash. And that led to me pulling out Game Over. Just another classic. This was the band, or this was the album that got me into the band. They don't have a bad record, though, especially from the 80s. They're all just fantastic. And I run across them pretty regularly. They are getting kind of pricey, though. High Roller has done some reissues that sound really good. I have one of their albums I don't have an original pressing of, and I have the High Roller copy, and it sounds great. So that's a route to go as well. Next up, this is Fantasm Wreckage. This was a very short-lived band. They did one demo. You've got Caton DePena from Hyrax. You've got Ron McGovney, who is the original bass player in Metallica. And then you've got Gene Hoglan, who's the drummer on the demos. So side A of this is just the demo, and then side B is live in Phoenix in '87. And it's just really killer thrash. This was right after, I want to say it was right after Dark Angel kind of fell apart. And before he started doing Devin Townsend, what was it? Devin Townsend? Not Devin Townsend Project. Strapping Young Lad, kind of in that mid area. And actually, he did the demo and then was out of the band after that. In fact, the pictures, he's not in any of the pictures on here, but he is credited as the drummer in the band. So very cool. Next up, some crossover. Just kind of always a go-to for me. I don't remember. I kind of went down the crossover. Yeah, I'll show you why in a minute. Did I pull the other one too? No, I only pulled one from the band. So this is what led me down the crossover. So I'll start with these first. First up is the debut from Cryptic Slaughter. Cryptic Slaughter was the very first crossover band that I heard, probably '87. I heard these guys before I heard Suicidal Tendencies. Basically, I had a friend who had this album on cassette, and I borrowed it from him, and I played the heck out of it. And I absolutely loved it. And then I kind of forgot about the band for years. And then ran across the CD like 7 or 8 years later and got into them again, and they've always been a favorite. I actually just found a copy of their second album as well. I might have shown that in a recent video, but after listening to the second album again, I was like, oh, I got to get a copy of the first album, so I went and found a copy of Convicted. So that kind of got me on a crossover mood for a couple days there, which led to me pulling out these bad boys. Cro-Mag's Best Wishes. Cro-Mag's just one of the all-time great New York hardcore bands. Their first album was a little bit of crossover as well, but with this album, it was straight up crossover. This is the second album from the Cro-Mags. Highly recommend this one. Buy the reissue, because these are getting pricey. This one's actually a white label promo. But even the regular non-promo copies are going to spend $80, $90, $100. And I mean, if I ran across an original pressing, I'd probably pay it, because it is that good. But fantastic album. Which, again, like I said, led to me pulling out some DRI. And I hadn't listened to this one in probably 7 or 8 years. So it was cool to give this one a spin again. Four of a Kind. Just an all-time classic. DRI is one of those bands that always take me back. And I grew up listening to DRI as a punk band. I didn't hear their crossover stuff until much later. I was a skater in the mid 80s into the early 90s. And every skate video I had just about had some early DRI, Jodie Foster's Army. I'm trying to think of some other Dead Kennedys. And this is one of those bands that always takes me back to my skateboarding days. But Four of a Kind from the Dirty Rotten Imbeciles, a little bit of Texas crossover there. Next up, same type of thing. I ran across a copy of this for cheap. It's a promo copy, so I had to get it. Unfortunately, it had some damage at the top. but just one of my all-time favorites, Under the Influence. Hello from the Gutter, just one of those timeless songs that always takes me back to like 89 when I first got into Overkill. I love this whole album. They played 3 or 4 songs on this last time I heard them, but Overkill and Hello from the Gutter, just all-time greats. And of course, I can't just listen to that one. I had to pull out Taken Over as well. If you haven't heard Taken Over, 10-star record. If you were only going to have one Overkill record, this would be the one to have. This thing is perfect from beginning to end. I can't say enough about that one. Let's see how long we've been going here. 15 minutes. I'll show one more, and then I'll show you 2 more. I can't not show this one. Next up one. This was kind of a funny one for me. I just grabbed this because it was cheap, but it was not what I expected, and I was pleasantly surprised. So this is Onslaught. Onslaught's a UK thrash band, very aggressive, very heavy, blackened thrash, and it was a band I'm obviously familiar with. I knew their first 2 records. I knew a couple of the records from the 2000s, and they all have that same kind of sound. This album, however, they kind of changed their sound a bit, and it's a fantastic album. This is one of those albums people either think it's their best album or their worst album. That's how divisive this one is. And it's In Search of Sanity from Onslaught. So what happened with this album is, the label, I don't know if the label got bought out or what happened. But they had troubles with singers. I think between the band forming and then this album, I think they had 5 different singers. And it was more that, if you guys are familiar with the early Sodom sound, that real harsh, kind of German thrash type of sound, real dark, that's kind of what Onslaught was. And hey, that's great. I like some of that early Onslaught stuff. With this one though, they brought in, of all people, Steve Grimmett. Steve Grimmett, a new wave of British heavy metal legend. Grim Reaper. What was the other band he was in? Grim Reaper was the. Is it Grim Reaper? Yeah, okay, Grim Reaper. That's what I thought. So he was in Grim Reaper, and then of course he was in Chateau. The album he did with Chateau, 10-star record. And that first Grim Reaper is an all-time classic, one of my all-time favorites, and so are the demos. Fantastic. Anyway, but how does that work with a thrash band? And, a lot of people don't think it worked. A lot of people hated this record. This is leaning more towards US-style thrash and longer songs, more melodic in a lot of ways, kind of like later 80s Metallica, kind of the way thrash was going in the late 80s. They were losing that harshness, and it was basically, like I said, later era Metallica, longer songs, and it's fantastic. I love this album. I played this like 7 times. I can't get enough of it. That one's a promo too, oddly enough, but I can't recommend this enough. If you're looking for that real rough, raw sound of their first 2 records, this is not it. And I get that if you were a fan of those records and this came out, you would lose your mind. You would hate this. But separate of that, this is just a fantastic record. And it's not expensive. You can find this one for like $25. Really killer. And then last but not least, maybe my record of the year. It is so far. I can't get enough of this. I saw this band about 7 months ago, and I didn't know what to expect from the new record. I believe they played 1 song. I don't remember, but their live set was really killer. And I am pleasantly surprised with this record. Not only is it a killer record, it goes back to my favorite era, the sound of my favorite era of the band. And this is Dissonance Theory from Coroner, 10-star record. This thing is fantastic. Technical thrash at its best. So by their third record, they started going the progressive route. And by their final record of the 90s, Grin, it was real heavy on the progressive, a little less thrash. There was still some thrash in there, but it was more on the progressive side of things. This goes back to that earlier sound, not quite to the Celtic Frost era sound of R.I.P., but of those first two records where it's just really killer, straight up technical thrash. Fantastic album. Highly, highly recommend this one. Get it before it sells out. I don't know how many pressings how many they're pressing, but it's a must buy. It's just fantastic. That's it, guys. I hope everybody's doing good. I'll see you soon. Take care, VC.